Hey guys, today I'm going to do something I've never really done before, and that's give you one of my lectures from my psychology degree, but do it to you, and just discuss the content. The reasons why I'm doing this are twofold. You might remember when I was doing my A-level in psychology, to help me revise some of the stuff, I explained some of the studies to the camera and went into detail about some research. Well, it's getting close to my exams here. They're coming up in January, and I think it really would help me learn just to have to explain it to someone else, rather than just reading it or rewriting it or any of those other techniques. I think this is really helpful. So you get to see more videos that way as well, and hopefully you get something out of them. So I'm going to be doing videos about lots of different modules in the near future, in the lead up to Christmas, and slightly afterwards. My first exams on the 6th of January, so be lots of psychology related videos coming up between now and then. Anyway, what we're doing today, well, it's health psychology and the introduction to pain. I'd never really thought about this before I had that lecture, but if you think about it, managing pain is a very psychological concept, and what really is pain? How do you objectively quantify it? These are the kind of questions that research in health psychology hopes to answer. Okay, so that's the kind of sort of general stance we started at the start of the lecture, in terms of thinking about what actually is pain. We all know when we feel pain, but how would you actually go ahead and describe it? So there's something called the International Association for the Study of Pain, which to be honest I didn't even know existed, but they define pain as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage, or described in terms of such damage. So right away that's quite a good definition, because we're getting away from this traditional biomedical model. Disease is all about the body. You treat the body, you treat the disease, and we're starting to acknowledge the psychological factors in the sense that they're saying it's a sensory and emotional experience. So now we've got that basic definition of pain. What different types of pain are there? Well, most people are probably familiar with this. Acute pain is anything lasting up to 6 months, but that's a technical definition. But a lot of things are a lot shorter. If you felt a pain in your, if you'd been typing and you felt a sharp pain in your hand for a few seconds, that would be an acute pain. Anything more than 6 months is a chronic pain, something that's enduring and long lasting. This is particularly common with back pain. It can be divided into two subtypes. There's chronic benign pain, which, as you can see, is chronic pain, but over the period of time it doesn't get any worse. And then obviously the opposite of that is chronic progressive pain, which can be quite difficult for someone to live with. It gets progressively worse as time goes on. And an example of clear chronic progressive pain is things like arthritis. Okay, so the next sort of idea is how do we actually go on from this to actually measure pain? Well, because pain, the essence of pain is really about the sufferer's emotional experience, and we'll get onto this more in a minute, because pain isn't just a biological thing, because some people have pain receptors that you normally expect for the pain pathway but don't actually feel pain. So the only way we can measure pain is through subjective measures, and this makes it often unreliable to measure. The same amount of stimulation can cause different amounts of pain for different individuals. So what are some of the subjective ways we can measure it? Well, we can obviously do self-report like we do with lots of things in psychology, things like interviews, questionnaires, and these are nice, easy, cheap to administer, but you always have the problem that people might lie on them, and particularly if you're in a clinical setting. It's quite common for people to report things like back pain as a form of malingering, so you have to be careful with that, and it can't just be that on its own. You have to put that self-report measure with something else. So what are these other sort of observational things that other people can look for that are a indicator of pain? Well, we all know these pain behaviours or manifestations. People tend to grimace when they're experiencing subjective pain. They tend to adopt different gestures. They tend to have very slumped posture and not really focus on their posture, and that they might actually say "ow," so audible expressions. One thing that doesn't have on here, which I think is a very good sort of pain behaviour, not good, but good to measure sort of pain behaviours. When people are in pain, they often have a lot of negative emotions, particularly if you've got chronic pain, because you might be used to it. You might not be constantly grimacing, but you might be in quite a bit of pain. So let's go on to look at one of those areas, the one I talked about before, the self-report. A good example of the self-report measuring pain, or I don't really know a good example, but one popular example, and the one we were given, was something called the McGill Pain Rating Index, and this is a self-report measure. It asks them lots of questions about where their pain is on different domains, and there's 20 items altogether, and they're spread on several different domains. They're asked about the sensory experience, the affective experience, so how it makes them feel. That's the emotional component of it. What their subjective evaluation is of what the pain's like overall, and then 4 miscellaneous items. There have been several problems with this that the lecturers were keen to point out. Number one that's been sort of complained about is that some of the vocabulary that people have to respond to is quite complex, and if you think about pain populations, it might be people that are regularly experiencing pain, people that are from a low socioeconomic status, and things that are even people that aren't. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of well-educated adults that don't understand some of the words that are on there. And also in terms of vocabulary, there's some sort of ambiguity. For example, there's a distinction made between burning and searing, where I don't think most people would be able to make that distinction. And similarly, there's a higher level of literacy required for a lot of self-report measures, and it's also a very time-consuming measure to complete, so it might not be used as often. Okay, so if we're gonna not rely on or if we want to rely on a self-report measure, but we want to try and have a bit of control over how much pain we're inducing, we can induce pain in the lab. This obviously has ethical problems, but we can do it. The first one, probably the most common, is that you can measure tolerance. That's how much pressure, how much pain can you take before you crack, basically. And one of the most common ways to do this is the cold pressure task. You put your hand in freezing cold water and see how long you can keep it there for. Obviously, putting your hand in freezing cold water induces a pain response, because your hand isn't designed to have that amount of stimulation for an extended amount of time. Another interesting way we can induce pain that's more precise is to use what's called an algometer. This is a pressure pusher typically placed on someone's back, and you keep adding more and more pressure until the person says they can't take it anymore. Apart from the self-report, we can take physiological measures in response to this. So obviously, when you're in pain, your heart rate and blood pressure go up, so that those are somatic sort of variables that we can measure. Okay, so let's look at we know how we're going to measure it. Let's look at theories of pain now. Where does pain come from? Well, there are two main biological theories of pain, and these are very simplified, but they sort of get the message across. So one commonality between both of the theories is that we all have nociceptors. Everyone agrees that we have pain receptors in our skin that attach to sensory neurons that then go on to project to various areas of the central nervous system. And I'll talk about synaptic transmission in a later video, but we all agree that we have these pain receptors. So what does pain receptors do? Well, there's two main biological theories. There's specificity theory and pattern theory. They both argue that these pain receptors send signals to a certain area of the brain, but pattern theory, in terms of specificity theory, is a little bit newer, and it just says that the pain has to reach a threshold before you can get it. Under specificity theory, as soon as those nociceptors received stimulation, you would just get the same pain response. But pattern theory says no, it has to reach a critical value before the neuron actually fires. Okay, so obviously I'm a psychology student, so an exclusively biological model might not be the best indicator. So there are problems with the biological theories of pain, namely that they don't take into account psychological factors. Even subjectively, we know that sort of anecdotal, we know that some people are better at coping than others, and this doesn't take into account any sort of emotional and psychological factors that the International Association of the Society of Pain told us that were important factors. More than that, there are people. This is called congenital analgesia that are born with pain receptors but don't feel any pain, and we'll talk about a very sort of extreme case of this, and just shows how adaptive and how necessary pain responses really are, because this was a side case study. I was going to go into it later, but I'll go into it now. The woman died at age 29 because she had she bit her tongue off at a really early age, and when taken into the lab and given various different stimuli, she didn't respond, and she died at age 29 because she was just so disinhibited from doing things, because whatever physical damage she did to herself, nothing hurt. So there were clearly psychological factors. Another one is where the opposite of that, where there's pain but no receptors. So we no longer. A lot of you have heard of phantom limb syndrome. It's now functional neurological disorder, but there are some people who have a limb amputated, but they still claim to experience pain at that amputated limb. So that there's I won't go into the Freudian explanation of phantom limb syndrome. You can look that up. It's an interesting read, but this is of something called neuromas, and it's about the nerve endings having been cut. So what you feel is the end of the nerve endings not working properly, but what you report is feeling pain in this limb. So we know that there are no pain receptors in the place that the pain's being felt. So it can't just all be about pain receptors. So how do we account for this? Well, we've got to start using a model that brings in psychological factors. One example of the opposite of congenital analgesia, which I talked about before with the case of the woman, is something called episodic analgesia, where you feel no pain, but only for a short period of time to get you through the task that you need to do, because you can't be feeling pain if you need to actually do something. An interesting example of this that was kind of done empirically was Beecher and colleagues 1939, where they took a bunch of soldiers that had just come back from the war and a bunch of normal people, and some of the soldiers didn't feel as much pain from their injuries as the civilians did. And why is this? Well, there's probably positive outcomes associated with being injured. I mean, you get to go home, you get to get leave from the army and and see your family. So this concept of episodic analgesia is something we need to take into consideration. There's also the issue of intensity or attention. If you're more attentive to pain, you're more likely to feel the pain as opposed to if you've got something to distract you. And this is a common technique that everyone uses to deal with pain, just to try and ignore it. So with all of that said, then how are we going to bring a biopsychosocial model to account for all those factors? Well, the main one is something called the pain gate model, and this was developed by Meltzer and Wall, and it literally is what it says. Pain gate. It acknowledges that there's nociceptors between the pain site and the brain, but it says there's essentially a metaphor of a gate in somewhere in the spinal column there that mediates the pain response. So if you're feeling positive psychologically, the gate stays open, and if you're feeling negative psychologically, the gate stays open, because you've got no way of ignoring the pain. And if the gate's closed, you will feel less pain. What are the problems with that? Well, no one's actually identified what this pain gate mechanism is. It's just sort of a entirely theoretical thing at the moment. So that's the problem. And then some people have argued that it's too expensive. There are cases where people feel an incredible amount of pain, but they're trying to be positive about it, so it probably doesn't account for anything. So that's the end of the lecture that I had on pain. That was just an introductory to psychology course, but I think that really was valuable. That really did help me to understand what I was talking about, and really useful as a revision aid. So I think I will do more of these. I'm even going to do some on statistics, which should be fun, not. But anyway, so thanks for watching this video, guys. I'll put my website just down below if you wanna watch it. If you want more tech videos, just go to my channel. There are more tech videos there. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope it wasn't too boring, or I hope it was interesting. If you want me to stop doing these videos, just write in the comments, and I will. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Share it on Google Plus. Give me some love. And yeah, anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.